final Premier League tonight of the season, on the final day of the season, therefore using the hashtag PL tonight. We want to know from you, what are your sort of best memories of final day games? Whether they be good, bad or indifferent, we just want nice memories from you about final day games. And I'm so pleased to say that look who's joined us. You've not lost your pace, have you? From the London Stadium to the studios in a matter of moments. How are you doing, Glenn?
Yeah, good. Yeah, good.
It's been a long time since we've seen you. I was going to say it is nice to see you, but you are about as far away from me now as you were when you were at the London Stadium.
At the stadium round the corner, yeah, it's true, yeah.
How is it over there?
Yeah, it's great. It's a bit cold. What's it like over there?
It's all right, and you've got a cardigan on, but you're right, it is a bit cold in the studio. I tell you what, let's carry on the conversation about Villa, because we've got Pete, who's a Villa fan, and I'm sure is very relieved, and Gabby Agbonlahor, who's already up and celebrating. Are you dancing around the room, Gabby? What's going on? Is that a little celebration?
I was really happy for them, you know. It was terrifying to watch that. I've never felt so nervous.
Would you agree, Pete? Terrifying, is that the word?
They definitely don't make it easy for us, do they? More late goals, more drama, but hey, we did it.
So what are you most pleased about, guys? Let me come to you first of all, Gabby. Is it the fact that Jack had such a big part to play on the final day? Is it just the overall picture of survival? Is it the team and the club sticking with Dean Smith and him repaying them with survival when we've seen the way that Watford operate and what's happened to them today?
I feel like it's, like you said there, look at Watford, 3 managers in the season. Aston Villa, they've kept Dean Smith when sometimes the results weren't going their way, but they've kept hold of him. I just feel like this season was always going to be tough. If you had said to the Villa players at the start of the season, you'd stay up on the last day, they would have took it. It was a really tough season. A lot of players that are new to the Premier League, and you know, they've fought the last 4 or 5 games. Look what they've done today. They're fighting, they're making blocks, and I think out of all the teams, they showed that they wanted to stay in the Premier League the most.
Gabby, you know, the way it ended up with Jack scoring, you know, it was always going to be Jack, you know, the Villa man. I mean, I just said just before the break that I feel it's time for him to move on. I don't want to sound like, you know, Villa fans won't thank me for that, but you know what I'm thinking for that is, yeah, he's not. What I'm thinking for that,
his eyes
sorry, Pete, but what I'm thinking for that is, you know, for them to, the club, the team needs a little bit of freshening up, and where they're going to get the money from that. And looking, I think Jack's price, you know, you could get 3 or 4 top players in for that. And then, so what's your thoughts on that, Gabby?
I hear what you're saying, but I feel like as a club of Aston Villa, they can't continue to be a selling club. You know, all the time I played there, Coley, it was player gets into good form, all right, whatever the asking price is, we sell him. It's a time for Aston Villa to... The owners have got money, you know what I mean? The owners are very, very, very rich. They've got the money to invest in a squad that can bring in more players to help Jack. And why can't they build a team around him? I understand what you're saying about maybe... he's at that stage of his career where maybe he might want to, but when you love a club like he loves Aston Villa, if he can sit down with the chief executive, the manager, and try and get in some better players to help the team get to where they want to get to. So I feel like, you know, that can happen with Jack, and I feel like he will want to stay.
You're nodding your head, Pete.
Yeah, that's exactly it. We've got a great backbone now. Okay, bit lucky to stay up, but with a little bit more investment and a bit more support around him, we've got some really good quality players in there, like Douglas Luiz. Savage was saying it earlier, just how crucial he's been in the last 6 games. He's quality. So if we get a couple more players in, hopefully Grealish will want to stay.
Gabby, there's been a change in the last 4 results. They've really played sort of some decent stuff. What have you seen out on the pitch? Have they changed their philosophy a little bit in the latter part of the season?
You're right, Glenn. I feel that, like, when there was maybe 12 games left, 11 games left, maybe the players didn't really feel that there were must-wins. And I feel when you come down to the last 5 or 6 games, it maybe clicked in their head, and they must have thought, you know what, we've got to start winning now. We haven't got a choice. And then that's the change I've seen since the Manchester United game. I've seen the players fighting. I've seen players sprinting back, chasing runners. I've seen players sliding and celebrating, defending. You know, I've seen Gilbert, the last 2 games he's played, Konsa, Mings celebrating, keeping the ball out the back of their net. And I feel like that's what it is. They've had the belief from the Crystal Palace game, then the Everton game, then the Arsenal game, that they can stay in the Premier League. by defending well, and that's what they've done.
Pete, I feel for you. While you're looking at Gabby at home talking, I'm watching Pete on the screen here. Gabby, I don't know sure whether you can see him, but he keeps on taking big breaths. He keeps on shaking his head. He keeps on looking to the heavens. I'm not sure you can quite believe what you've been through today.
I'm still absolutely exhausted, I'll be honest. It's typical at the moment, isn't it?
Yeah.
We score a goal, and then 30 seconds later we concede one. It's heartbreaking, but it's ecstatic at the end, obviously. So
we've got a shot of you here. This is you at the end when you knew you were staying in the Premier League, and the players are mirroring it. Look, Glenn, a real brief one to you about Jack Grealish. When you love a club and a club loves you, sometimes it's not always the best thing to move, is it? And then you find that things don't turn out the way that perhaps you hoped. And Villa are a big club. They could spend money, push for Europe.
I can relate to that a little bit. I was 11 when I first went to Tottenham, which was my team. Went all the way through, and I nearly left about when I was 24. And I wanted to leave then. Looking back, it was the right thing to stay. But I think if they stay, he needs better players around him as well. If he goes to another club, and let's face it, some clubs will need him, some won't. Will look at him and say, we don't need him. But I think for him to stay at Villa, he's got to have... I see Jack look around on a football pitch. He's that good. He's looking around saying, where's my support? I've got no one to give it to. And that's why he gets fouled a lot. That's where he's clever. He gets his body in between. But he needs better players. With better players, he would play quicker and be a better player himself. Now, he might have to go away from the club to actually get that. Or do they sit down with him and say, look, we're going to spend more money. We're going to get some quality with you to play with you, that quality with him. Then you'll see the best of Jack.
I imagine he'll be asking that exact question. Listen, gents, thanks so much. I hope you're on the beers already. Wonderful. Enjoy your evening. Celebrate. Go out and celebrate. Congratulations to the both of you. Well done. Well done. And of course, West Ham played their part today as well. Let's get some reaction from the West Ham manager. David Moyes has been talking to Des.
Well, the result was 1-1. Decent result. There was no dip in your form, no dip in your motivation that we saw at all.
Yeah, different word performance, I would have said today. No, we weren't quite there where we have been in recent games and recent weeks. But you have to put it in the perspective. It's in the players have done brilliantly well. In fact, incredibly well. And we were fortunate that we didn't make this game worse than it had to be, where it could have been a lot riding on it. But the players done their work early. And good performance. You always want a good performance, and we could have played much better.
In a bigger picture, though, you returned to West Ham at the turn of the year, and you've ensured the club's 9th season in the Premier League. That must be very satisfying for you.
Well, it is because, I actually think this time was much harder than the time I came here before. I think mainly because there was a big expectations that West Ham were risen by. The owners spent an awful lot of money for new players, and I think the expectations at West Ham had gone up. So I think when you're in that position at the bottom, suddenly the job becomes much harder, and that's the way we felt it. It felt harder this time than the time before, but I've got to say that the players have been really, really good. In fact, they've been brilliant since I've come in, but I think the lockdown bit as well gave us a chance to work with them and get them in better shape, and they've done a really good job, the boys.
Well done, David Moyes. He did the job that he set out to do at West Ham this season. He keeps them up in the Premier League. Let's hope he now gets the time and the money to do a rebuild. Right, let's confirm what's happening then until 7:30 here on Premier League Tonight, the final Premier League Tonight of the season. We're going to be talking about the Player of the Year, discussing whether it was the right decision to go with Jordan Henderson and getting the thoughts of both Joe and Glenn. We'll also do the same for the Young Player of the Year. It's so good, isn't it? Just that image there shows you some of the brilliant young talent that we've got in the Premier League at the moment. We'll be discussing the Team of the Year, the guys who've put their teams of the year together. So did you at home. Over 1 million people voted for their Team of the Year across our social media. And as well as that, Luke Dowling's going to join us. He's the sporting director at West Brom. They've gone up alongside Leeds. We're going to talk about two teams who are joining the Premier League next season. But let's talk about a team that we're hoping to join the European elite once again. I'm really interested on the sort of story of the form of Leicester. At the turn of the year, New Year's Day, they were 14 points clear of Manchester United. They were beaten today by United and ended up 4 points adrift of them. I spoke with Robbie a while back about whether they need a rebuild, and he was dead against that. What do you think?
No, we was talking about on the same show, Jake, and I said, sometimes you see rebuilds on the horizon, and what I meant by that was you look at the makeup of the squad and the team. Remember, Manchester United won the league, and the next year, Ferguson went, Ferdinand went, some of the other senior players went, and it all crumbled, and they ended up finished 7th. You know, so you look at it, and I look at that squad, and I look at Johnny Evans, Schmeichel, Vardy, all 33.
Yeah.
You know, and I think to myself, that's. I know they've got a young squad around it, but I think them three, you're going to have to start thinking about replacing them three over the next few years. And are they going to be able to perform at the Premier League level for 38 games? So I look at that spine of the team. You know, I know there's your Tillemans and your Madisons and that great young players, but for that was it 16 points ahead of Manchester United?
Yeah, well, we've actually got their 2020, their form in the Premier League. We can have a look at it, actually. And, you know, for a team that were looking to finish in the top 4, their form across 2020, if my cataract-affected eyesight can tell me what it says on there, 12th. They're 12th in the league. That's not great for a team who were hoping to finish in the top 4, Glenn. So maybe something's going on here.
Oh dear, I mean, it's whether there needs to be a rebuild, possibly there is. You know, there's a few players there that, as you say, they're the wrong side of 30 now, but now would be the time. But it's sacrilege, really, to be 14 points clear, you know, in shutdown and then come. They're in top level sport. You cannot take your foot off the pedal. If you relax for 1 minute, I felt in their early games when they came back, it was all a little bit too easy and there was no venom in their play. It was almost like, well, we've qualified, we can't win the league, we're not going to drop out the top 4. Well, by the way, you have. And at the end of the day, it was a mental approach. Nothing to do, I don't think, with the players and whatever, and Vardy, you know, waiting to get his 100th goal. Premier League. I think it was a mental thing, the mentality, and I think Brendan will look back and go, wow, what could we have done? I don't think it would be too much about on the pitch preparation, the tactics. They're still a very good side, Leicester. I love watching them play. It was the mentality, the mental side of the game. They switched off, and you cannot switch off in any sport at the top level because you'll get punished.
It's interesting because, you know, when Brendan was last at Liverpool, you know, Brendan's emerged as a good manager. He's gone up to Celtic and he's won things, you know, but when he had that great team at Liverpool, and same thing, they just fell off it, didn't they, the last 5 or 6 games when the title was in their hands.
So is this still a good season for Leicester?
It's a good season for Leicester if you took it from the start of the season. But I think as it emerged, Glenn, when it was like, you know, all of a sudden you got Maddison developing as this player, Tillemans is coming in, Vardy's still scoring goals, he looks rejuvenated, having retired from England, and then it just fell off, like Glenn said. And I think Brendan, as the man in charge, I think he'll look at that for next season and go, how do I motivate these guys to do it from the first game of the season to the last game of the season? And that's the challenge for Leicester and Brendan and his team.
Going into lockdown, I felt they were the best midfield that I'd seen. They were up there with the top teams. Obviously, maybe not Liverpool and City at the moment, but that midfield, the midfield players he had were terrific. The blend and the balance was excellent with Ndidi and Maddison, Tillemans. Mendy came in when he needed. And I was thinking, actually, they look a side that are going to go places. I really felt they were going to really stay up there and challenge. I'm absolutely shocked that they've come so down so quickly. And again, in top sport, you can't just switch it on like a light. They thought, oh, well, we'll win next week and we'll get going. And, oh, no, well, maybe the week after. You have to go out and do it and demand from your players. And the players need to demand from each other because you could see it happening. As neutrals, looking back, I covered quite a few of their games. They got knocked out in the cup against Chelsea as well. They weren't at it and they needed some old-fashioned sort of...
And now they have to be motivated to play in the Europa League, and players like James Maddison have to be convinced to stay to play in the Europa League, not up in the Champions League. I do want to mention the man, though, that's taken the Champions League spot, Frank Lampard. There he is. How much of a good job has he done? Unable to spend any money, although there were a couple of rivals over the summer that were already agreed. Lost in Hazard, one of the greatest players of recent generations for Chelsea, and they finish back in the Champions League spots. How would you rate his season?
Brilliant.
First ever season as a Premier League manager.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because, you know, the embargo, the transfer embargo was there as well. The pressure of coming back to your club as such, when you've been such a legend at a club, that's extra pressure on you. The way he's played, the way his teams have played, he's got a great squad there, a very good squad. They concede goals, but he's stuck to his guns, he's stuck to his principles, and he's been really strong as a manager. When a player had to be taken off or when a player had to be left out, Frank's the first up there. Kepa, exactly what you were talking about earlier. So he knows Chelsea inside out. He wants them to do so well, but he knows also when they need a kick up the backside, he'll give it to them. But I love the way they play, and they're offensive, and now exciting for Chelsea fans. Who's coming to town? You know, the players that they're brought in and maybe bringing in, I think they need defensively sorting out a little bit. They keep conceding, but he's done a wonderful job. He really has.
I echo everything Glenn said. I mean, it was all in the balance today, weren't it? I mean, we were saying all through the season what a great job he's done because of the circumstances, you know. But today they lose to Wolves, and you're out, all of a sudden, it's, you know, you might think it could have been, which could be to a different Chelsea team altogether. One thing I will say about Frank: great managers make big decisions at big times, and to leave Kepa out of the team in a big game like today, he would have known that would have, you know, that would be news.
Yeah.
And he's done it. He's stuck to his guns. He's got the job done, and he's done it. He's done a great job.
And loads of people getting in touch telling us about the moments that they've enjoyed as final days over the years. Dietz says it's got to be Jimmy Glass for Carlisle. He loved that moment. David Wilson says, personally, I've seen Borough 8, Man City 1 for drama. Either City against QPR or Liverpool against Arsenal in 1989. And Dilly says, as a Baggies fan, the great escape. West Brom 2, Portsmouth 0. West Brom bottom of the league at kick-off. 3 other results went our way and we stayed up. What he doesn't realise is that I was in the away end at Fulham that day when Norwich got beaten, and we were one of the teams that ended up going down. But there you go. Right, we're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, the conversation continues. We're going to be getting Young Player of the Year conversations, Player of the Year conversations, and Joe and Glenn are going to share with us their Team of the Year as well. Stay where you are on Premier League Tonight. Welcome back to Premier League Tonight. It's nice to have your company. Let's just confirm the way that things finished at the top of the Premier League, particularly for the European spots, because it gets only very slightly confusing for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Spurs are guaranteed to be in the Europa League next season after finishing 6th. Wolves finished 7th, so they will be guaranteed Europa League if Chelsea win the FA Cup. They'll be in the Champions League next season if they win the Europa League themselves this year. But I want to just talk about Spurs, Glenn. With only a game to go last week, they were 4th in the form table since Jose Mourinho took the job at Tottenham. It kind of doesn't feel like they've been the 4th best team because of the amount of negativity that swims around anything that Jose seems to do. But surely that counts as a great job for him. I think they were 14th or something when he took over.
Well, I think I'd look at it, and I think Jose will be looking at it. It's surprising when you say that. I think, wow, actually, that's a strange stat, but it's a true stat, and it's one we have to respect. But I think he'll see it as a foundation. That is a good foundation for next season, when he'll get a few players in that he wants, and he'll mould the team as he wants. I think the lockdown and playing behind closed doors, particularly sometimes at home, has helped Jose set up how he wants to play. I don't think the Spurs fans would have stood for banking up 2 forwards, 2 up front, changing that a little bit, you know, saying, well, we've got great offensive players, we're going to defend this and hit people on the counter, and they look dangerous, and it's probably the right thing to do at this moment in time. But I think it's been made easier not having the Spurs crowd there, because they would have got a little bit impatient and perhaps they'd have lost that shape.
Yeah, I want to talk about unnecessary criticism, and I want to talk about it with regards to Jordan Henderson. It was so interesting this week. He picks up the award for Player of the Year. He takes Liverpool to the Premier League title. He's won the Champions League with them and the Club World Cup and everything else. Yet all I see is people questioning how he can possibly be named a Player of the Year. You've shared a dressing room with him. What do you make of that sort of criticism?
Well, you can understand where the argument comes from, because you look at a midfielder and you look at Kevin De Bruyne or you look at Jordan Henderson, and Kevin De Bruyne is an absolute genius. But what Jordan Henderson is the epitome of what any manager would want in their team.
Yeah.
He's made himself, he's carved out his career from just grit, hard work, his desire. He's a credit to his club, his family. You know, and I can understand, you know, obviously he's not going to get the assists of De Bruyne, he's not going to score the goals of Steven Gerrard, but what he brings to a team and a club, football people know how valuable that is. Gareth Southgate lauds him. Jurgen Klopp, he's the first name on the team sheet. You know, and we're right to this is a team sport we play. Yeah. And he galvanises everyone around him in that dressing room. He doesn't step forward to become the star. You don't see him doing step overs or anything like that. He just wins football matches, and he deserves every accolade he's getting at the moment, and fair play to him. It's another award for Jordan, and Jordan will see this is Liverpool's award, this is my team's award. But, you know, it's an individual award and fair play to him.
Well said.
Yeah, he's had a very good season. Very good season. I think if you want to win the Premier League, then you need a Jordan Henderson in your side. Personally, if I'm going to vote for my player of the year, it's got to be somebody where I would actually put my money on the table and on the turnstile and say, I would pay money to go and watch this lad play.
And who would
Whoever
that
it
be?
That'd be De Bruyne.
Yeah, 20 assists he managed now this season, same as Henry.
De Bruyne's been outstanding. He sees pictures that other players, and he's somebody you'd love to go and watch. He's also somebody that if you've got a kid or you've got a young footballer, you'd watch him. No disrespect to Jordan Henderson, I'd say go and watch De Bruyne if you want to become a top player. You know, obviously you've got to have some talent as well. But and I don't mean that disregarding to Jordan Henderson. But for me, a player of the year needs to be somebody that you go, yeah, I'll walk 100 miles to go and watch this guy play. And
I kind of dislike the conversation generally, don't you, about asking whether Jordan Henderson deserves to win it. It's kind of like he's won it. It was voted for by people. I mean, it's not the most important thing he's going to win or has won. So let's just let it be, right? Why does it have to be one versus another all the time?
No, it's the world we're in at the moment. You know, it's right what Glenn says. You know, we're playing a team sport, and we know how hard it is to make a successful team and all the different ingredients. You need a Jordan Henderson, you need a Kevin De Bruyne, you need someone to put the ball in the back of the net. You know, but with individual awards, it's like, do you give them to someone who has the biggest effect on the team, or do you give them to someone rightly, you know, like a De Bruyne or like a Grealish or someone you're going to love watching, who you turn out and you think to yourself, wow, they're going to entertain me today. So it's a strange conversation.
Your De Bruyne's and those sort of players do things that no one can do, or you'd like to do. And they admire, and you admire them for that. You know, even their teammates look at them. No disrespect. We're not. You know, saying this, but Jordan's a fantastic professional. He's a really good player, and the job that he does is completely different to De Bruyne anyway. But it's interesting how you can have people, and it's an individual thing, and it's just how I would love to see a player of the year. You know, that's how I always look.
And listen, your opinion counts because you're the only person sitting here right now who won a Young Player of the Year only 40 years ago. What are your
shorts there, Jake?
I wasn't expecting that, if I'm totally honest. I hadn't seen the photo previously. I'm not sure. Wow, yeah, that's quite something. So that's put me right off. What's your memory of that particular season?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those seasons that I felt so confident. Like, you have them little spells, Joe, don't you, where you feel inspired. And it was a season where everything I hit from outside the penalty area went in the top corner. There was other
thighs had a lot of space to work, didn't they?
Other seasons you were in Rosette, but you know that it just all seemed. I think I scored 23 goals that season, and everything I seemed to hit went in. But it was a funny season for me because back in the old day, I had a split vote. I nearly didn't get any award at all because people split. You could do a 2 vote there, and I was nearly player of the year. I just missed that, and I just got young player of the year. And the fella said to me after, he said, you nearly missed out, Glenn. So it was one of them things. Back in the day, I think that could happen. Not anymore. But God dear, can you take that off, please? Get that down quick.
Well, let's move the conversation on. Who gets your vote this season for Young Player of the Year?
Young Player of the Year. I'm going to go with Trent. I think it's difficult to look outside the Liverpool team because this lad, his right foot's like a wand. I find myself looking at him, and he's so good as a right back, but I find myself thinking to myself, why can't he play further up the pitch? But then you're taking him out of where he's so efficient. But I look at the way this lad passes the ball. He reminds me of Glenn when he's got the outside of the boot. He can do the driver, get the driver out. He can get the pitching wedge out. He's got all the clubs in the bag. He's such a talent. And I just think to myself, I feel we've got the best right back in the world. Yeah. I'd maybe like to see him try a few different positions where he could be even better. I think there's more to come from him.
I voted for Trent as well. I said voted. I didn't vote. But I was yeah, definitely.
If you could, you would.
I would, yeah. No, I think. And how old is he? 20? 21?
Yeah, 21.
Would
you take him into midfield if you were his manager?
No,
leave him where he is.
Because although he's a really great player, he spent all his life playing with the line to his back. And you put yourself in the centre of that midfield now, I think you wouldn't see the best of him. I feel sorry for Reece James in the future I think unless England go with the back three, I could see him playing right side of that. But I think he's a fantastic player, Reece James. How is he going to shift Trent? I do not know. Because this fella can hit passes. He sees angles. He sees pictures from wide on the right. Now, what you'd say, what would he be like if he had the centre of the pitch and he could play 360 degrees? He's got everywhere to pick up. But I don't know if he could cope with that pressure of that ball. The change of play that they get, Liverpool, the way they play, people play, they're defending a lot against you, and the fullbacks get a lot of space. And I think in the centre of midfield, where it's all going round you, as we know.
Yeah.
You've got to have eyes at the back of your head. You've got to be on the half turn. You've got to play off your left foot and your right foot. Whereas normally, predominantly, he's going to be playing right-footed play because he's out wide. And I think he's absolute. And what is he going to be like when he's 27? When he's going to be in his peak? Incredible.
Incredible. And do you know what the situation reminds me of? Because I played with Wayne Bridge. You know, Wayne Bridge and Ashley Cole were the same age. Ashley Cole was widely regarded as the best left back we've ever seen. You know, and Wayne Bridge, by the way, was every bit there or thereabouts. You know, they're great players. And Reece James and Trent, that's why I'm tempted to try and find a position for one of them in the England team, because I want them both playing, because they're both that good.
Wonderful. A little bit of trivia for you. Can either of you name the only goalkeeper to ever win the Young Player of the Year award?
Cool.
Anyone?
Neville Southall.
Mervyn Day.
Really?
There he is,
Mervyn.
in all his glory. And I think, you know, when you're a player as talented as him, winning awards at such a young age, and you have a son, you've got high hopes for your son, and you're thinking, wow, my son will also go on to great things. Sadly, all these years later, his son, Dickie, is simply a director at BT Sport, directing this programme, actually. So I'm sorry, Dickie, you're the eternal disappointment to Mervyn, but that's... True talent on one side of your screen, ladies and gentlemen. No, we're lucky to have you, Dickie. That's a nice surprise for you. Thanks for your hard work this season.
Brilliant.
Right, and on that note, we're gonna. He's good, isn't he, Dickie? He does all right. He
Does a very good job.
He's no Young Player of the Year, but he's all right. We're going to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Luke Dowling, as well, is going to join us live from Leeds United. He is the sporting director. What a brilliant season they've had. Sorry, not Leeds United, West Brom. He's going to join us as well very shortly. Lots to talk about. Stay exactly where you are on the final Premier League tonight of the season. Welcome back. It's nice to have you with us for this evening's Premier League tonight. In just a moment, we're going to be comparing Joe and Glenn's Premier League teams of the season, along with yours as well. Actually, we had so many votes for the teams of the season. But look, football's all about goals, and we've seen some absolute belters on BT Sport this season.
Phillips forward. Tries long. What about that? Shelby. Yes. Jonjo Shelby. Maddison. Oh, how about that? Sigurdsson. Sigurdsson still all the way to win it. Jay Rodriguez, who then gets it back again from Chris Waddle. What a goal! What a goal from Jay Rodriguez! Pull back for Ndidi and now Chaudhry. Oh wow! It returned beautifully there. Big chance here and a great goal there. Matheus Vydra. Delivery. Dunk writing. Oh, what a goal! Shot hand match with Brighton. First diamond of the decade. Mendy with the cross. Newcastle then coming this side. De Bruyne. Oh, that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant.
Been a strange season. It's been a long season, but by and large, it's been an incredible season. All of those goals were scored on BT Sport. We look forward to bringing you plenty more from the 12th of September. And I wonder who will perform well next season. This is your team of the year. I mean, people love this sort of stuff, Glenn. We had over 1 million votes for the fans to name their team of the year. They went with Martial. They went with 7 Liverpool players. Soyuncu also gets a mention. He was brilliant for Leicester. Obviously, they just fell short in their race for the Champions League spots. Kevin De Bruyne is in the midfield. No David Silva, which I guess is a shame. And that says a lot about Bruno Fernandes that he made it into the team of the year despite only arriving at United halfway through the season. Should we have a look at yours?
Jake, I must have had some sort of creative day when they asked me to do my...
Are you changing your mind already?
Well, I'm looking at the team and I'm thinking,
wow,
that team is there's so much creation in there, and there's a few curveballs. I think I'm going with 3 at the back, and that's why Cody's in. I think Cody's been excellent for Wolves. He organises, can pass the ball, change the play. Johnny Evans, okay. Before lockdown, I thought he was excellent. Absolutely. Okay, Leicester have had a bit of a problem, so there's a question mark there in a way. And the 2 Liverpool full-backs, without a doubt, wing-back. And look at my midfield, look. De Bruyne and Neves. I love Neves. I think he's a wonderful player. But that wouldn't win the league, but you win a few cups with that team.
I think you'd entertain along the way as well.
Entertain, absolutely. Jimenez, for me, outstanding. Wolves will do well to keep him, I've got to say.
You didn't sort of want to go with sentiment and put David Silva in there almost as a thank you for the years of great football he's given us?
Yeah, possibly. Well, he's a fabulous player, but I don't know, I just went a little bit, off-piste.
Is there anything you change now that we've got to the final day of the season and we know who's been successful and who's struggled a little bit?
I probably, at a push, actually, now I saw Joe's and the fans, I probably would have put Seonchu in there, because I think he's been good this season as well. But people have forgotten Johnny Evans. For me, I must have covered quite a lot of his games, and every time he was close to man of the match. His defending was excellent, his use of the ball was good. Hasn't been as good, I must admit, after lockdown, but and Fernandes, I agree, I wouldn't put him out there. I don't know why they've put that system. I told him to play a little bit.
We were trying to work out how to get them all in, I think.
He plays just behind Jimenez, and Mane would have played in behind a little bit, and the wing-backs would have given his way. But Fernandes has been absolutely brilliant. Not only, to stamp your authority...
You'd go like 5 up front, basically.
5 up front. Everyone up front. Yeah, why not? Well, look at the goalkeeper. He's capable of scoring from there. Edison, the way he passes.
It's a good team. Right, so we're saying it wouldn't win the league, but it would probably win a cup.
It would win a few cups.
Yeah.
It wouldn't win the league, probably, no.
Let's have a look at yours, Joe.
Yeah, it's pretty
solid,
standard,
I think.
Pretty solid. I think it's the same back 4 as the fans, what they picked. I think Soyuncu reminds me so much of a player I played with, Carvalho, at Chelsea. I think he gets on the front foot. He's really settled into the Premier League. Obviously, the 3 Liverpool boys, Van Dijk, Arnold and Robertson, outstanding. Midfield, Henderson, player of the year. You've got to get him in. I'm being a little bit more pragmatic than Glenn. I'm thinking a little bit more about we're going to win games. And so I'm putting Henderson in because of that. De Bruyne, best player in the league for me in terms of what he brings. He's got to be in. He's got to be in. And then I went with goals. Sterling, Mane and Salah, all up there in the top goal scorers, dribblers, runners. Pulisic is my only curveball I put in. One, I've got to have a Chelsea player in there somewhere. But 2, I think the business that Chelsea did bringing him in and how he's developed, similar to Jordan Henderson, as the season's gone on, got better and better and better. And now we're going to an FA Cup final next week against your closest rivals, and Chelsea is that important. I think you'll be looking at him to be the one to win you
and
a
if
game.
he's a young
like
English
Hazard
player, he's all over the newspapers and the television screens being lauded, isn't he? I think sometimes if you've come from abroad and he's just under the radar a little
I've got to say, he is looking fantastic, and I think again he's got so many great years ahead of him. But you could say that about quite a lot of Chelsea young players as well, couldn't you?
2 very quick key questions. Why no Jamie Vardy for either of you?
Good question, chat. I mean, it's either or, isn't it? I mean, I was thinking of team of the year. I was thinking, how am I going to win the league with this team? And I just think Mane's got a little bit more than Jamie Vardy. Although I'm a big fan of Jamie.
And in a one-off game, who wins your team versus Joe's?
In a one-off game,
yeah,
I'd fancy my team.
Brilliant. I enjoyed that, Jed. Thank you very much. Right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, Luke Dowling is going to join us. He's a man who's had so many different careers in football. His current one, though, is sporting director at the Baggies, and he's helped take them into the Premier League. We're going to talk about him and how they've done it and what their plans are ahead of next season. So if you're a West Brom fan, stay where you are. If you know a West Brom fan, pick up the phone and tell them to tune in. See you in a couple of minutes. To the final Premier League tonight of the season. So we lose Watford, we lose Bournemouth and we lose Norwich as well. However, we welcome Leeds and we welcome West Bromwich Albion and whoever joins them. Let's hear from a couple of fans who are already celebrating promotion. This is Josh and Paul and how they're feeling ahead of next season.
just about finished celebrating Albion's promotion back to the big time, and it feels fantastic. We've stumbled over the line at the end with no win in our last 4, but over the course of the season, I think we've been a really exciting and free-flowing team to watch, and it's on merit.
They've been countless owners, minus 15 points, 3 years in League One, promotion, 113 loan players. And it wasn't until 2018 when Marcelo Bielsa, the great man himself, came into the club that we actually started playing football that we could watch and love and enjoy. And the whole club has transformed the infrastructure to the point where we're ready to come and grace the Premier League when it starts again in September.
I think we might be seeing a few of those T-shirts around Premier League grounds as long as the fans are able to get in from next season. And welcome to Premier League tonight for the first time because his team are back in the Premier League. Luke Dowling, the sporting director at West Brom, joins us. Luke, first of all, thank you so much for giving up your time on a Sunday evening to chat to us. Before we talk about the season and about the club, I just wanted to talk a bit about your journey. I mean, it's not so many years ago you were driving a cab and working at a gym to make ends meet with a young child and a mortgage to pay. And then you made your way through various clubs across pretty much every division doing all kinds of jobs. So to end up as a sporting director who's taken a team into the Premier League from a personal perspective, I guess you've reflected a lot on that journey over the last few days.
Yeah, hi guys, and thanks for having me on. It certainly has been a journey of many different jobs, many different clubs, and perhaps not a journey that people automatically think, where a sporting director's been before. But my short professional playing career as a youngster at Spurs till 16, and then 2 years at Reading full time. I always had that interest in the other side of the play, and I was always, speaking to Steve Keane, who went on to manage Blackburn, that was with me at Reading, about what player reports look like, what team assessment reports look like, and always seemed to have an interest in that side of it, even from a young age. And the football, my professional career didn't go where I wanted it to go, and obviously I had to go and get jobs to pay the bills, and you mentioned a couple of them there, and I then went and managed in non-league and loved that side of it. And it was then when I spoke to Phil Parkinson, who was the Charlton Athletic manager at the time, that I knew from my time at Reading, that I got involved in the scouting side, because I had that burning ambition to get to the Premier League. I couldn't do it as a player. I probably wouldn't do it as a manager, and I had to find a way to get there. So I thought the scouting route would be the best route, which Phil gave me the opportunity to go into Charlton, and then, which I didn't, believe it or not, I didn't actually do, because AFC Wimbledon actually asked me to go and join them and be like the main scout rather than just a regional scout for Charlton, as they were trying to get through the leagues and get back into the Football League. So I had a great time with them, and it quickly, went on from there in terms of Palace recognised the work that I'd been doing. Michael Appleton, funny enough, left West Brom to go and be the head coach of Portsmouth, and wanted to create a sporting director role there, like he'd had at West Brom. But I didn't have that title. I was head of recruitment there, and as probably you're all aware, if you're a chief scout head of recruitment, you then tend to follow managers around. And I followed Michael to Blackburn after we left Portsmouth. And it was only after I left Blackburn that an opportunity came along that Watford, who sadly obviously went down today, were looking to recruit a British sporting director. They just had an Italian one that moved on. I got asked to go and see the owner and the chief exec, and thankfully I got given that opportunity. And I had 4 really good years there, which was a promotion as well to the Premier League, and 3 years staying in the Premier League while I was there, which is an achievement for a club like Watford's, and I've ended up where I am now at West Brom. So it's been a lovely journey, but it has, it does make you think of them days, working in other jobs, and when you work in football, you never wake up and feel like it's work.
Well, you certainly don't wake up and rest either, because now that you've got the job at West Brom and you've helped them get up to the Premier League, you've got to work out how to be successful there next season. Let's first of all talk about this season. What do you put down as the single biggest determining factor that's taken you back to the Premier League?
I have mentioned it before, and it is easy to say, but the recruitment of getting Slaven into the club gave everyone at a time last season a real lift. We just got knocked out of the playoff semi-finals to Villa, our rivals. Unfortunately, Darren Moore, that is a club legend and loved around the city, had to move on. And then we lost Dwight Gale and Joe Rodriguez that scored 56 goals between them. We lost Mason Holgate that's doing great with Everton at the minute. We lost Craig Dawson that's playing every week at Watford in the Premier League. Harvey Barnes was with us for half a season that's doing great at Leicester. So we had to get someone that would lift the spirits, make the current players that we had better, because that's what we want as well. That Jake Livermore's gone a bit flat, Carl Bartley, Hal Robson-Kanu, and someone that would come in with a fresh pair of eyes. That, you know, the Championship was new to Slaven. Obviously, he knows the English League and what it's like, but managing in the Championship was new to him. And someone that would just grab the ball by the horns, because we were feeling sorry for ourselves in the summer a little bit because players were leaving. We hadn't made it before we get promoted last year. And it's ironic because I think if you look on paper, we probably had a better squad player for player last year. And this year, you know, we haven't had to go through the playoffs. We got in the top two. But Slaven and the way he's got an aura about him, the way he handles himself, the way he handles the players, he's been the biggest factor this season.
And what about next season? Are you going to do what Norwich have done, not spend big money, but try and work with the squad that took you up? Or will it be more along the lines of Aston Villa or Sheffield United, who broke transfer record after transfer record?
I can certainly say unfortunately we won't have the money that Villa have spent, and we will spend more than what unfortunately Norwich had to spend. So we will, we've looked to be in the Sheffield United bracket. That doesn't, necessarily mean that we end up where Sheffield United have finished the season. They've had a wonderful season, but we've got to bring in, try and bring the average age down again. That was one of the big things we had to do in the summer. West Brom for the last 5, 6, 7 years has had an aging squad, and don't get me wrong, they've done great in the Premier League for a couple of seasons, but we had to bring that down in the summer. 1 or 2 might leave this summer because that's just how things work. But bring players in that have got value. Bring players in that not necessarily those sexy names. We didn't do that in the summer, but can add something to the team. But I think when you're a club like ours that does get promoted, the biggest thing is add players that are going to be in your starting 11. There's no point adding to the squad. We need to make the 11 stronger.
Brilliant. Well, look, we wish you the very best of luck. If you wouldn't mind explaining in just a couple of sentences what we can expect from West Brom in terms of the way you want to see that team attack the Premier League next season, your style of play, your approach, what would you say?
We'll be playing a similar type of football that we played this year, because that's how Slaven wants to play. We have to be sensible at times, and we're not going to go up against Man City and Liverpool and say, come on, let's both play, because obviously without being negative we'll get beat. But if we do it the right way and enjoy it, which people keep saying we've got to enjoy it, but we've also got a job to do, and we've got to win as many games as we possibly can and stay in the league. But it will be enjoyable for us supporters to watch. I can guarantee that.
Well, look, it's been an amazing journey for you personally. It's been a difficult journey, but ultimately a successful one for the club and the fans. You're back where I'm sure you believe you belong. Congratulations, and we look forward to covering plenty of your games next season.
Many thanks. Thanks, guys.
Top man. Well done, Luke. Yeah, good luck indeed. Thanks very much. Right, let me just tell you what else is still to come on BT Sport over the next few weeks. The Premier League may have finished, but the sport certainly hasn't. You can see Arsenal against Chelsea Saturday, 4:15, right here on BT Sport in the FA Cup final. We're looking forward to that. Then the Europa League gets going from the 5th of August, and the Champions League gets going a couple of days later. I hope neither of you are planning on taking a holiday between now and September. Huh? No plans?
What's going to Spain?
Not now. No, you're definitely not going there. Gents, thank you both very much for your company. Thank you to everyone involved in the programme.